Welcome to the Coachers Podcast. Coaches, athletes, parents, and fans, this is your vault for inspiration.
How's it going? This is Keanu Yamamoto with the Coachers Podcast, in here with Coach Aaron Hazel, head football coach at Nelson High School located in Oregon. Coach, thanks for jumping on. Please tell us about your family journey, background, progression, all that good stuff.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Been here at Nelson High School, Adrian C. Nelson High School for 5 years. Brand new school, opened it up. Previous to that, I was the head coach at Salle Prep down the road, small little Catholic school where I was an alum. I went to my mom taught there, so I went for $1.25 back in the day and got to do that. And was at Skyview High School in Vancouver. Prior to that, worked for some really, really great coaches, great principals, teachers, learned a ton there, and played football at Eastern Oregon University. And then, grew up and down the West Coast, moved a ton when I was growing up. I was born in Central California, Modesto. I tell people if you're not from California, I say the Bay Area. And then if you're from California, they go, that's not the Bay Area. But moved around. I lived in kind of Portland City. I lived in Eagle, Idaho before it was as big as it is now. I'm in the two daughters club. My wife and I got 2 girls, like one of those things I've seen with a lot of football coaches. They got 2 daughters, and Stacy Collins was here the other day. For boy, he's got 4 daughters. I'm like, oh man, I don't know about that. But part of the 2 daughters club, man, and just super excited to be here and connect with you, Coach.
Yeah, well, appreciate you hopping on. Which is always talk about, establishing a culture, building a culture from the ground up. Okay, you started off at Hazel at 21, 22. Talk about building a program from the absolute foundation where there's no foundation.
Yeah, it's kind of, I was super happy where I was. I was coaching at my alma mater. I was loving it. And I kind of just felt like there was a little bit of the ceiling here. Somebody told me about this school opening up in Happy Valley in Nelson High School. And I got really excited about the opportunity. And I called John Mannion, who opened up Mountainside out in Beaverton. That was the newest school in the Oregon area. And I called him up, and he talked about how, we got kids from Southridge and kids from Aloha and kids from Beaverton, and all these kids, everybody came in new, and they were really excited about changing something and starting something from the ground up. And, he goes, when else do you get that opportunity? And I kind of was thinking in my life, I go, gosh, there's, in my coaching time, there had maybe been 3 high schools that had opened up. So got really excited about the opportunity. I knew some people in the district that were kind of involved, and I was fortunate enough to throw my name in the hat and get offered the position. I get the job, have a Zoom meeting, because it's right to, kind of tail end of COVID, have a Zoom meeting. And the difference between Nelson and Mountainside was there's 3 different schools the kids were coming. Nelson, it was one school. They just took Clackamas High School, cut it in half, and these kids are going here and these kids are staying. And in that Zoom meeting, I real quickly realized, like, we're not building a culture, we're changing a culture. A new school, there was 40% of the community that was super excited about it, 40% of the community that was furious, and 20% that was, it is what it is. So that was a big flip for me. Was, all right, it's a little bit more changing the culture than building a culture, but at the same time, we got to totally start some new for these kids and the community, and take some of the stuff. I was at Skyview High School, big 2,000 kids in the building. And then I go to LaSalle where there's 550 kids in the building. And, you're trying to figure out, it's not what can't this kid do? It's like, what can this kid do? And taking some of that small school mindset into the big school program. And it's been awesome. We got a great community here, great administration. It's a fun place to be.
Yeah. What would you say was the kind of the biggest challenge to get the ball rolling?
So, the big challenge is it's a community that's used to winning. I mean, 2017, they win a state title at Clackamas, and youth programs used to dominate and all these kind of things. And then going, okay, well, we've got half the kids that we had before. And that was a big adjustment for some of our families. You're not just going to walk on the field and be better than everybody else or have more depth than everybody else. That first year, we played varsity football with 1 senior on the team. And Coach Mannion warned me about it. And I was like, we'll be fine. Just the physicality of having all sophomores and juniors. We started a freshman quarterback most of that season. We got a freshman D tackle, just the physicality of it. And then you go back and you look at the end of the year and you go, we had one rushing touchdown that season. One rushing touchdown. We were pretty good at throwing slants and fades and stuff, but protecting for a while. And like I say, you look back and you go, okay, well, yeah, no wonder we go 2-7 because we can't run the ball when you're just a little bit undersized and weak and stuff. It was one of the kids had a good experience. We got more kids out the next year and kind of hit the ground running after that.
Can you kind of talk about, just the why behind getting into coaching and what was kind of the draw to getting into coaching?
Yeah, you get asked this a lot, and I go back. There's really like a couple moments. My dad was a youth coach, right? Youth baseball, basketball, football. He coached us in everything, which was awesome. I've got an older sister and a younger brother, and I remember going to the store when I was little, right? I'm 8 years old, 9 years old. And you get these families, these kids from teams that you coach, and you just see the joy on these kids' faces, on the family's face when they see Coach Rich and all those kind of things. And I remember thinking to myself that time, like, I want to do that. I want to have that kind of impact on people. And I remember, take your kid to work day. I don't even know if they still do that anymore, but I go to my dad was a manager for Xerox, right? And going to the office and just seeing the impact he had on people and positivity and just that idea of like, I'm going to make somebody's day better. I'm going to make someone's day a little bit easier. I'm going to bring some joy in. So I think that's where this idea of like coming into a leadership role is where I can go serve a community. And then growing up, I played team sports my whole life, football, basketball, baseball. And I always felt like I could be the best version of myself playing sports and connect with people. And that's just where like my joy was, right? My character, one of the things, sports, it brings the best and it brings the worst out of you, right? And I kind of said that balance between, do sports like teach character? Does it reveal character? And some people say like it reveals character. Well, for now, for this moment, right? It reveals where they're at this second. We were talking pre-show, we were talking about a kid that's, sometimes rides that emotional roller coaster. And it's like having those opportunities to teach like in the moment, some applicable skills and stuff. It's just, I love coaching, and I don't know that I wouldn't be happy doing anything else.
Yeah. Yeah. Now, I like what you talked about, just the difference between, whether or not a teacher's character or reveals character. One of the cool things, I had a conversation with a basketball coach, and, one of the questions I asked is, what makes your sport the greatest sport in your opinion? And he talked about basketball and how everything is out there in the open. It's one of the more unique sports in the sense that you're exposed, and the fans and people sitting behind, they're almost within the game, and they can see everything that you're saying within the huddle. They can see how you're reacting. They can hear what you're saying. So I don't know, mean to go off on a tangent there, but
No.
It's exactly what you're saying. Like, okay, that was my emotion within the moment. And then it's a perfect example to go back and reflect on, okay, this is what I did. This is how I approached the situation. How can I improve on it and make it better? Sorry to go off on a tangent there. Talk to me just kind of overall coaching philosophy. Who you are, what you stand for, what your program stands for.
Yeah, it's something that's constantly trying to evaluate and hone and make sure that I am who I say I am, right? And we talk about it with our kids, right? Are you about what you're about, right? Do you have pistos? And
Pistos?
Pistos, Greek word.
Okay. What is it?
Greek word for the act of belief, right? Believing in what you believe in. And saying, I just had a student come in, I teach full time. I had a student come in and, talking about his grade. And I'm like, hey, you say you're this, but here's your actions, right? Are you believing in what you believe in and Pistos? So, but I've kind of honed this thing and follow that Pete Carroll thing of like one sentence, inspire and empower those I influence to be leaders of their community. And that's our goal. And whether your community is just you, right, being leaders of yourself, or it's your family, talk about my dad, you're the manager of Xerox, or you're a teacher, or whatever it is, like what's your community and how can you be a servant leader in that community? And I really believe we can teach those skills on the football field, on the basketball court, on the baseball field, right? Better than any classroom. I'm saying that's in my classroom right now.
What do you teach?
I teach, so I'm super fortunate. I teach a class called College Career Readiness.
Yeah.
I get every junior in our building for a semester. We do a career exploration unit, post-secondary exploration. What are you going to do after high school? And what I love is we get to talk about, are you going to go to community college? Are you going to go to trade school? Are you going to join the military? Right. We get to talk about all these different things. Do financial literacy, right? You got to budget. You got to pay your mortgage. You got to buy. What's the difference between buying a new car, buying a used car, those kind of things. And then we do a job readiness unit. And so we write resumes and cover letters. We bring people in from the community, do mock interviews. Everybody I talk to outside this world, when I tell them what I teach, everybody gets jealous. And
I mean, that sounds like a great gig right there. And it's perfect because, I mean, you got your own players and you start working on their goals. And I mean, you can keep a thumb on them, throughout the day, which is pretty cool.
It's awesome. And I love, like I said, I get every junior in the building. So I get every kid and, I get to fist bump every kid as they come in our classroom and out of the classroom. And as the football coach, I think teaching this class really helps just build community around our school. And so, yeah, it's awesome.
You mentioned, you want to inspire and you want to make an impact. And one thing I like when I talk to coaches is like, I feel like a lot of times, not everyone's philosophy is set in stone. Like a lot of the coaches I speak to, consistent learners want to learn. So I think with their philosophy, it kind of changes and morphs over time. Throughout your career, when did you feel like, okay, this is who I am. This is what I stand for. When did that hit?
So my second year as a head coach, we had a decent team. And I think we were good enough to make the playoffs, right? And we didn't for multiple reasons, right? And I really sat there and I kind of went to what I had been going before. Okay, well, what do we got to do defensively, schematically? We got to change our front. We got to change our coverages. What do we got to work on offensively? What do we got to emphasize? And I had actually a veteran coach say, maybe look at some of the other things outside the play. Like you run a good offense, you run a good what you do is tough to defend, right? And it's tough to score. Start thinking of those other things. And I sort of stumbled on Tim Kite and Brian Kite with the Focus 3 stuff. And, Tim Kite worked with Urban Meyer when he was at Ohio State. And that stuff just landed all of a sudden. And it's like, it's all about the culture and you as the leader define the culture. And that was one of the things that like, okay, I need to spend some time really defining what our culture is. And that idea of like, it's either intentional or it's default. Like it is what it is. You either make it what it is, or it's just going to show up. And you got no control over it. And so that was a big aha moment. And then the second real aha moment I had was a couple years ago. We're doing senior night and I put out a little questionnaire to our kids. And one of the questions is, what's your favorite moment in your time at this program? And we had like 21 seniors. 20 of the 21 favorite moments had nothing to do with a game, right?
Yeah.
It was team dinners. It was team camp, playing, getting on the sticks with my buddies at team camp, right? It was, summer workouts, doing the playlist on this day or whatever, things like that. And it's like, okay, the football is the football and it's super important. But the things that these kids really value is the connections and the culture and being part of something bigger than themselves. And that was kind of the aha. I was like, okay, let's do a really good job with the football stuff, but then let's also build a program and a culture where, like I said, we're inspiring, we're empowering, we're giving these kids life skills.
Yeah. No, that's a good answer, Coach. You said you sent out a survey to your seniors. Is that what it was? That's one thing I think it's kind of funny within sports. And I've been a part in high school, been a part in college. It's like we get asked at the end of season, like we ask the players at the end of season, okay, how'd the season go? What could we have done better? Whatever your thoughts are, whatever questions you're proposing to your guys. But I had a good conversation with Coach Matheson, and it's like, if you just look at it you look at the market, you have 4 quarterly reports throughout the year, and you're going to want to know feedback. I think, in my opinion, you're going to want to know feedback throughout the year as opposed to just at the end of the year. And it's like, oh, why didn't you express that? Why didn't you tell me that? So you just kind of bringing up the survey thing made me think of, coaches tapping in or trying to connect with their guys throughout the season, as opposed to just not at the end of the season and, get their thoughts back. So that way coaches can pivot, if something's not going well during the season.
And it doesn't have to be formal. Like I was talking to
Correct.
the other day, and it's like, yeah, I do this formal feedback form survey at the end of the year, and then I'm checking with kids constantly. I go to our basketball. I announce our boys' basketball game so that I can be
Oh, that's cool.
act, and I got the best seat in the house and that kind of stuff. But I'm there for our kids and seeing what's going on with other sports and all those things. But just seeing kids in the halls and a quick like, hey, how's algebra going?
Yeah.
Like I know, cause I hear from other kids that algebra's tough. Like, how's algebra going for you? And trying to be a little bit more proactive on some of these things with kids, and not as much, like you said, just wait until the end of the survey. One I stole through the Tim Kite, Brian Kite stuff, the ultimate question that the Southwest Airlines used to use. We go, okay, hey, rate the season 0 to 10, right? 10 being amazing. And then the next question is, if you rated the season 8 or below, why? Right?
Yeah.
What could have been differently to make it a 9 or 10? And it's that one question. You're really going to get the root of frustration or something, right? And versus, rate playing time, rate this, and then it's like it's going to go to whatever the focus is, whatever the frustration is, and you get to dial in on some things. And it's sometimes it's stuff that, like, we had 2 kids that they rated the season a 7, and I was kind of like, gosh, they're all league kids. They're, they play a lot. I'm trying to think, then you go read their response. Like, we got to be more physical at practice. We got to tackle more and all this stuff. And it says like, okay, all right, there's a gap in this communication of like why we do what we do, why we practice the way we practice. And not every kid's wired the same. Right. So if we went live 3 days a week and then tried to play on Friday, I don't necessarily know we'd win a lot of games, So it's one of those, you really get the root, and then you can have these conversations and connect with kids and that follow up.
Yeah, that's good, Coach. Can you kind of talk about or pinpoint an example where you got feedback from players and or coaches, through one of what you're talking about, and maybe how you took some steps to, adjust it the following year?
Yeah. That's one, like looking, okay, how do we make sure we connect on our practice tempo, our practice philosophy, what we're doing. I had a kid a couple years ago that walked away from football, right? Quit, and he was frustrated. And I remember I called the kid in to my office at the time, and I go, hey, I get that you're frustrated. I get that this isn't for you, right? And I go, I want to get better, right? So I want to I got checking the ego at the door. What did you not like about this program? What didn't align with you? And in that, I found there's some things okay, how do we communicate with a kid where he wants to play this position and it's not going to help the team, right? How do we communicate that, hey, you are going to serve the team much better in this role? And I think if you give it a chance, you're going to really like standing out here, right? Versus kind of being in the background in this spot right over here, having that conversation. And then sometimes too, when you set the culture and our beliefs and our behaviors that are really important, it doesn't vibe with everybody, and that's okay. Right. And so sometimes in that conversation, it was kind of that. And then there was some other things that's like, I appreciate you sharing. That's not who we are. What you want out of a program, that's not who we are. And so I wish you the best. I hope you find what you're looking for. It's not going to be here. And sometimes you got to be okay with that. Right. And this idea, like, football is the greatest sport in the history of the universe, and it's not for everybody. Right.
Yeah. Kind of just piggybacking off of that, that's one of the questions I like to ask.
Right.
So why is, in your opinion, why is football the greatest sport?
Greatest game in the history of the universe. There's no other game where 11 guys 60 times on offense, 60 times on defense, 120 times a game, 11 guys have to get it right, and I coached JV basketball. I coach JV baseball. I'm our softball coach now somehow, right? Softball, you roll out there, you got an ace pitcher, you're going to be pretty good, right? And it's like football, you got a quarterback, a Division I quarterback, you're going to be okay, but you better have some linemen that can protect. You better have some kids that can catch the ball. You better be able to stop somebody still, right? When the game counts. In basketball, you got the best player on the court, you got a chance, right? Whereas football, it's just, there's so many guys that get together. You have to do what your best player false starts. It's a 5-yard penalty, right? You don't make up for it and that kind of stuff. So just the impact that it has on everybody. And then the other one is I don't see 15 to 18-year-old boys hug each other and tell each other they love each other
Yeah.
and sweat and do all those things like they do in football anywhere else. You know, my sister, she's got 2 boys, and one of them, I mean, this kid is 6'5", 215 pounds. He lives in Texas. He plays hockey, doesn't play football. Junior year, they talk him into coming out. And, you know, my sister's like, I don't know what it is. All of a sudden, he's getting up and he's going to workouts and he's just happier. You know, he's come home from practice. He's exhausted, but he's nice. And I go, well,
But he's nice.
football's different, you know, football's different. There's something about it. And I can't, as I put my opinion, there's lots of things, but it's just the greatest game in the history of the universe. And I love all other sports. So I love coaching softball. I love coaching basketball. It was really, coaching basketball is really fun. You know, like you talk about it's all out there. Like you can really, in the middle of the play, tell a guy where to go and stuff. Like you can't football, you call a play and it just goes into the ether. You're like, I hope they do what we asked them to.
Yeah. Can you, has there any, I guess, been any times where you may have pulled maybe a philosophy or a certain structure of a drill from a different sport and implemented it into a different sport?
You know, we try to talk with kids a lot of times, like this year with our senior quarterback, he never played baseball, right? And so I'm like, all right, you know, we're trying to throw these bubble springs, you know.
Just off platform
Yeah,
throws.
let's turn
Like
2, right?
arm angles. Yeah.
Yeah, turn 2. He's like, I don't know how to turn 2. What do you mean you don't know how to turn 2, you know? You know, and the quarterback we have coming up is a big-time basketball player, you know, and never played big, but it's like, hey, we're ball reversal, right? How are you going to get the ball and swing it here? Let's get the movement going. Talking about spacing, catching punts, it's like reading a fly ball, right? Let's get behind the ball, cat tack coming in a little bit.
Yeah.
The other one, I trying to find different podcasts and different ways of like leadership. One thing that I listened to Jack Black talk about being on, like, what's the High Fidelity, you know, his first big movie.
Okay.
And the director, there's this big scene and he's
I thought it was School of Rock. That was my extent of the first movie Jack Black was.
Okay, all right. So I hear him on a podcast talk about the director chewing out the audience, right? Or all these extras because they weren't into it. And Jack Black realizing like, hey, I actually was not doing well in this scene. I wasn't performing. I wasn't delivering, but he's kind of getting on me. And now I feel the pressure going up. So my point of bringing that is like leadership. There's tons of leadership and there's coaching and there's directing and all these things. You can find some inspiration from a movie director, from a songwriter, from all these different things of like, how are you trying to get this group of people going in this direction efficiently, quickly, right? And the way you want them to. So I try to get as much, I'm trying to absorb as much stuff as I can, anywhere I can.
Yeah. No, that's awesome, Coach. Can you kind of talk about, if you don't mind lifting up the hood a little bit, you know, just kind of actionable steps within your program as far as how you go about, you know, installing your culture?
Yeah. So again, I look back when we really dialed in on this culture of like, we got to build this playbook and stuff is turning over some of the stuff that last year I was running the offense, I was running the defense, I was running most of the special teams and really trying to unleash, you know, delegate some of that stuff off to some other coaches so I could really focus on the culture stuff. This past season was the first year I completely gave the offense to somebody. So we had a true offense coordinator, special teams coordinator, defense coordinator, and then I was kind of the head body language coach and head culture coach and that kind of stuff, which I thought I might get bored, but I didn't, you know, and it's one of those things where you have to be super intentional and you have to define things if you want kids to do it, right? You got to define what it looks like, what it is. You know, we have this culture playbook and I give it to our coaches. And, you know, one of our things is E plus R equals O, right? Events plus response equals outcomes, and steal that straight from Brian T. Kite, you know, is like, if you don't believe in that, you are not going to like it here, right? And so really just constantly going, okay, over with kids. Anytime, all right, what's the event? What's the event we're facing? What's the outcome we want? And then how are we going to have the proper response? You know? And then another thing I try to do, and I think I've gotten better over the time is, you know, pregame talks and stuff is, yeah, we got to get kids ready to go. But the message can't be different than what we've said all week or what we've said for the last 6 months for these kids, right? So really establishing it when we do our talks, and if you see our screen before a home game, right? I've got like our core beliefs of extreme ownership, power of the team, and passion for growth, right? Those 3 things are on the board every single game. And then specifics for that game, they all fit in those 3 categories, right? And so we are hitting those things every single day, and being intentional. We haven't done a team camp the last couple of years. And I used to really spend time at team camp. I thought the culture stuff was just as important as getting reps on the field and stuff, but it just got so expensive for our kids.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that we're trying to find time all the time right now. Like, can we do it in our preseason camp? Can we do it? Can we take an hour on August 21st? Can we practice for an hour or less and spend some time in the classroom and figure out and I do think it's just as important as what we're doing on the field in that time.
Yeah. Can you kind of talk about in season? Let's just kind of talk about your practice structure, what your layout for the week looks like, and then in season.
Yeah, and again, that's something that's evolved over time and stuff. So we start Mondays are a big film and lift day for us, and then we do go on the field for about, I would say we're on the field for about an hour 20. So we're film for about 30 minutes on each side of the ball, and then about 10 minutes to special teams. I say 10. I know our special teams coordinator is going to go, you cut me down to 6 all the time. But so film, we get a little lift in after we go on the field for about an hour and 20. Tuesday is our big work day. So we're about 15 minutes of film on each side of the ball. That's a big change. It's doing some film before we go on the field. And it's tough on some of our coaches. You got to be really efficient. You got to make some cut ups, right? And make sure that everything we're watching is intentional and we're not guessing, we're not just throwing film out there and trying to figure out what it's like. No, have 5 or 6 plays that you really want to watch with your group. And then we get on the field. We're on the field for 2 hours, 2:15, probably early in the season. And we kind of scale that down. And then Wednesday is another little short film, and we're on the field for about 2 hours. And then Thursday is another thing we've changed. We started going in the mornings on Thursday. So we don't start school till 8:35. So we start 7:15 until about 8. And the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season, 6 weeks, we're outside on the field. I got some really cool pictures of, that morning mist, that morning fog. The JV kids aren't there because, JV in Oregon on Thursdays most of the times. We just have that core group, and we don't have every coach because not every coach can be there. I've only got 2 of us in the building here and 1 elementary teacher. So it's kind of a small core group. We're super focused. We're in, we're out. They get to go have a team meal on Thursday after school. All of our coaches get to go to the freshman or JV game and stuff like that. And then we get after it on Friday. One of the things I do like on Friday, our kids, they don't go home. So after school, we feed them here. We do a pregame lift, and that's real short, about 15 minutes. We have one of our coaches does a prayer service for our kids before school that want to partake in it. And we just got some stuff in me. But I'm just these kids don't drive very well. The people around them don't drive very well. I just don't like the idea of them leaving campus,
Yeah. No, that's good, Coach. If there's something that you guys do in practice that you wish you did sooner in your career. Drill,
yeah, I got some film stuff, and then I used to be a big, like, when I was in Washington and JV games were on Monday, we were super short on Mondays. It was just a walkthrough. And then Tuesdays and Wednesdays were really hard, really long. And then, Thursdays were a little bit shorter as well. We've kind of gone to, okay, Mondays and Tuesdays are going to be our long days on Mondays, that film and that lift. We are going until about 6:15. And then Tuesdays that's our hard day. And then Wednesday, we kind of taper down a little bit. And that's helped our kids be fresh and ready to go on Friday. And then one drill, we really committed to doing the screen drill. 3 days a week. And it's one of those, I did a clinic a couple years ago, like, screens it's the hardest thing to practice, right? You got a scout team guy that's told not to touch the quarterback, but then you want him to rush the quarterback, right? You got all these things. Yeah. This look, you're trying to go off of a card and the kids don't understand. Like there's a dotted line and then a hard line. And it's like, I don't know what to do. So we started just going, hey, we're going to do a screen drill on air. And then we had coaches holding bags. And now we added some kids, and we find a group of DBs, JV kind of DBs that understand, okay, you're going to flow. So we have some targets, moving targets for our line guys. But that's something that we've just emphasized, and we've gotten pretty good at running our screens. Coach Matheson on this talk about, like, you play Camus, you got to defend the screen game. I really feel like when you play us, you got to defend the screen game as well, which helps our pass protection and helps our run game and all those kind of things.
Yeah, no, it's a good answer, Coach. So you're an offensive guy at heart.
At heart, yeah. I love coaching defense too. It's a ton of fun. I'm actually I'm going to be in this Les Schwab Bowl doing the defense with Coach Potter and stuff. So I'm
Oh,
super
nice.
about that. But obviously, high school, you grow up playing both. In college, I played quarterback, and then I got hired by Steve Kaiser at Skyview High School, and Steve Kaiser's. He was the D coordinator at Walla Walla Community College. They're the last community college in the area, and then he was the D coordinator at Eastern Washington linebackers coach. And I go coach with him, and I'm doing quarterbacks, but then during the defensive side, I go to linebackers with him and coach. We were a 4-3. The Will was kind of our adjuster guy. And, he's like, all right, I'm going to coach the 2 box guys. You coach that one guy, and really learned a ton about defense and love it. It's just the switch is great. It's just a different way to think about things. And it's a ton of fun over there.
Yeah. You got the little one formation challenge. Okay. You got to put the offensive thinking caps back on. You can go into a game, run one formation. What is it? Why?
Yeah. You've been, traditionally we've been an 11 personnel team, that's what we major in. And then depending on person assignment, will be 11 with some 10 sprinkled in, 11 with some 12 sprinkled in. So sticking with 11, that nub 3x1 nub formation, where we got to run strength, we got to pass run, and we can motion into 2x2. We can run some fly to the short side, do some stuff. That one,
that's my formation as well.
I just think it's really tough to defend. And, I had a kid that I coached was a GA at Cal a couple years ago. And
who was it?
Hayden Shue.
I must have missed him.
An all-timer kid.
Where's he coaching at now?
He's not. He's living in Redmond. He's a Central Oregon. He's just living the life. But he was he was GAing, and then he was at Montana State for a little bit. But I went down. I was down in the area. I called him out. Hey, I'm going to come check him in. They were getting ready for USC that week, and they upset USC. But I sit in the DB meetings, and they talk about USC nub formations. We're getting shots. And I never kind of thought about that. And then I would think back, and we'll go on huddle that when I get back and log up huddle. And I'm like, oh crap, we get nub formations. I mean, we're taking some shots. It was like one of our big plays was out of that stuff. So I just like that 3x1 nub, and you can just do so much out of it.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, I think for me, to your point, like you said, run strength, like you're going to, depending on if they go corners over or not, if they don't go corners over, now that corner's in the fit.
Right.
So he's gonna have to tackle back.
He's playing that D gap.
Yeah, and then you still get, depending on what that strong side backer does, is he in the apex or is he still in the box? And I feel like that dictates your coverage, whether it's middle open, middle close.
Even if you go corners over in high school football, you got a corner now playing a slot. He's not used to that, So it gives some good stuff in there.
Is there anything non-traditional statistics or anything unique that you kind of look at a program that you may think gives you guys an edge? For example, I always say when we were at Boise State, it was, 10 quarterback hits. It doesn't have to be sacks, pressures, hurries. It's how many times can I hit the quarterback, and that's going to affect his process in some sort of manner.
The one that is negative plays on offense. That's one that, and I saw a stat. It's like the only thing that's 100% you're going to win games is if you have no penalties or negative plays on offense. I guess it's like only happened one time in the history of the NFL. And so that team they won the game and 1-0. It's like the only stat that is 100%. So we're consistently trying to figure out negative plays. And I was just talking to our offense coordinator last night about, when we look at obviously penalties, okay, our procedural penalties, is it the same guys? Is it the same position? What's going on? And then if it's, negative plays, is there something consistent? Are we asking kids to do something they can't do? So do we need to evaluate the scheme? Do we need to coach the technique better? Is it a technique issue on these things? What's popping up is consistent. You're going to have things, but is there something that we can fix right now? And so that's the big thing I'm checking. And since I didn't call either side of the ball, my note card, I'm checking penalties and negative plays, right? And trying to make sure we're creating more negative plays than we're giving up.
What does practice look like for you? You just kind of roaming, coaching the coaches? What does it look like?
So I still work with the QBs. And then I run the scout team on offense. So
It's fun, dude. It's fun. That's what I did for about 3 years. It's fun until the DC just starts MFing you. But besides that, it's fun.
They
Yeah.
start thundering you a little bit. It's like, hey man, I got the JV squad here. Let's ease it up a little bit.
They can't say anything to the head coach though. They can't get on you.
Yeah, so that's been fun, and it allows me to kind of watch a little bit, get some defense. So I'm going in and I script out our scout offense for the defense, right? So I'm looking at, you got to make sure you have these, and work with our D coordinator on making sure we're hitting the right things. It's so fun.
By the way, sorry, I don't mean to cut you off, but that is just important for growth, because like for you to keep it within the same language as your offense, that makes a big difference. Like even at the college level, it's the defensive GAs running the scout offense.
Yeah.
And we try and learn the offense so we can put it in terms to make it make sense for them. But it's not the same as if everything was one unified language and we could all speak it.
Well, and
sorry to cut you off.
Even on defense, where we have, I remember vividly one practice getting on our scout team inside linebacker because he wasn't dropping, and he goes, "Coach, I don't know where to go. I got a dotted line for the coverage. I got a drop line, squiggly line with a circle for coverage. I got a dotted line for the gap, and I got a little note." And he's like, "You want me to read this thing in 10 seconds and then actually be able to play football?" And that was a big aha moment we talked about earlier of like, okay, let's just put it in our thing. And yeah, it's not going to be perfect. It's not going to look exactly like the Camas paper makers, but it's going to be fast, and the kid's going to play football, and it's going to be much better by the time we play on Friday night than if we try to get them to do these things exactly. And so, and offensively, the only time we draw cards is when we play a wing T team or something that is completely out of words. But I definitely like saying, hey, spread right, Buccaneer, pepper, X, shallow, Y, hitch, right? So like everybody is doing Buccaneer except for these two guys that I tagged, right? And then we'll call this thing. And sometimes it's like, I got to elongate the little box because it's like, it's this play, X shallow, Z dig. It's something we don't have anything like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it. And then coach of the scout team, man, you connect with your younger kids, and it's so much fun. We always say the sophomore.
You know who did scout team? Now we're talking about it. Mario Cristobal ran scout team O-line.
There you go. Go.
Or help run scout team O-line. You know what? He ran scout team O-line.
Right. It's the hardest years that for us, that sophomore year, we go sophomore through seniors practice together, and so some guys get their game reps on Thursday nights and some on Friday nights. But that sophomore year, when you're going scout team Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and then you got to play a game on Thursday.
Yeah.
That's tough for those kids. So if I can be there, run a scout team, and we get a 4-yard gain on an inside zone against our,
you're pumped, dude.
We're jacked. And so just finding ways to celebrate our kids is huge, man.
That was the best. Like whenever we had Thursday, we're kind of like our exotic trick play, high red zone days. So Thursday and post practice, if we ever had something hit, like it was vivid on film. Me and the other GA just celebrating, running down the field too.
Yeah.
And then we'd go on the defensive meeting, and then the freaking coaches would just fucking look at us and like, "Whose side are you on?" type thing. But I mean, those what we live for. Like if we're gonna stay up to 11 o'clock drawing cards, and we get it right, we're gonna freaking celebrate it, man.
Yeah, exactly.
We're gonna celebrate it. What would you say has changed the most in high school football? Could be anything, off the field, on the field.
Yeah, I started in 2005, and social media was around and stuff, but it wasn't as prevalent. It's just some of those things are the time, especially with the kids, right? The outside influences, and trying to teach kids like, hey, are you really going to listen to somebody that you would never ask advice from, right? I heard Aaron Rodgers say that one time, and it's like,
that's a great quote.
Trying to get kids like, hey, you're listening to all these people and you're not asking the right people for advice and stuff. So that's a tough thing. We got all these different people out there with ulterior motives, right? And a lot of people making money off of kids. I mean, I was talking to Matt Miller, was over, he's at Washington State, and
that's my beach volleyball partner.
Awesome guy.
He doesn't know yet. He's been saying no for about 5 years, but that's my beach volleyball partner.
There you go. So we were kind of reminiscing about, like, there was no AAU, there was no 7-on-7. It was like you played football, and then you played basketball or wrestling, and then you played baseball or track, and then in the summer you just found whatever you could do. And now it's just so many different people trying to make money off of kids, and it's really frustrating, that side of it. And we work with them, and it's the world we live in, right? As a coach, right? The time, the separation, and trying to be 100% for your family at the times, and shutting it off, and that's one thing that I have a really tough time doing. And I've made some commitments with my wife and stuff. It's like, okay, we're gonna, outside of season, we're not answering emails after 8 o'clock. We're not, unless it's an emergency, some of those things. But that's the tough thing. It's just there's so many distractions and so many things pulling you in different ways and stuff.
Yeah. No, that's a good answer. Prefaced you before we got on, Anela Question of the day. So my brother had a question for the guests. Yes. And it was, what's your favorite thing to do in the morning when you wake up?
Yeah. So I wake up, take a shower, sometimes shave, sometimes I do love it when I get 15 minutes to get downstairs and just sit down, have a cup of coffee. I turn on, the Today Show or something like that, and just kind of be present for 10 minutes. I got nothing else going on. It's quiet. Nobody's asking me to do anything. I just feel like when I have those days, it'll just go a little smoother for me and stuff. Yeah. Right. So taking that time, I'm not meditating, but it's the same idea of just taking 10 minutes for yourself and kind of processing the thoughts and just letting everything kind of be for a second, and then attacking the day.
Nice. What does the word team mean to you, Coach?
Yeah. We talk about power of the team with our guys, and how
power the team or power of the team?
Power of the team. So it's our core values. We have extreme ownership, and then power of the team. And we talk about how those things, some people can say they conflict, but they also, it's that push and pull, right? A little bit. And they work together of, if I take extreme ownership of everything that I do, everything I do impacts the team, right? And when my buddy jumps off sides, like, we got to take some ownership over that. At some point in the last week, month, there was some time where I didn't hold my buddy accountable. Right? And at the same time, on the flip side, the power of the team is his success is my success, right? And we talked about it before we've always had coaches come in the last couple of years. You go to the state semifinals, all of a sudden you got every coach in America wants to come and see your kids and see what's going on and stuff. The power of the team, when the team does well, we're all going to do well individually, right? We talk about football is the greatest game in the history of the universe, and where we have guys that kids want to fit in, right? They want to fit in, and then they want to stand out in the group that they fit in. And so whereas like football, power of the team, and you get to fit in here, and at some point you're going to stand out and you're going to get recognized by the people you really do care about, right? Mm-hmm. That you've sweat with, you bled with, all those kind of things. And it's a special deal. And, we hope to teach it like, hey, power of the team, man, when you need something, you got to ask, you got to reach out, you got to have the courage to ask for help. And the more time we're with a team atmosphere and with competing with guys, the more comfortable you get saying, hey man, I'm having a tough time with this. I need help. Right. And you got people there to lift you up. And then at the same time, you also have so many opportunities to lift others up. And, there's all those studies that show, like, when you show gratitude, when you thank someone, obviously you make them feel better. But then when you see their appreciation for you recognizing them, how much like dopamine hits you get, all that, just by being a part of a group where we're sacrificing for each other, we're serving for each other, and we're connecting stuff. It's just, I love team sports, man.
Yeah. This is the first time I kind of thought about this, and I'm glad it came up now. Was, you talk about coaches coming through to see your players, right? And a lot of times they're going to go to see one guy, maybe three. And then there's a whole bunch of other guys who know that, okay, these coaches aren't coming for me. So twofold. How do we reel those guys back in to not inflate their ego when college coaches are coming to see them? And then two, how do you get the guys who aren't, coaches aren't coming to particularly see them? How do you keep them in line and on track?
It's really tough. And that's balancing. We're going to have a recruiting information night to our parents here. And nice. One of the things that one of the slides I have is like the breakdown between each position group. This is what a Division I tight end looks like. This is what a Division III tight end looks like. And I tell kids all the time, if you want to play college football, there's a spot for you, right? There's enough programs and schools in the country. Now the thing is like, do you have the grades, to get into schools? that wants you to play football there, right? So I've said this to a couple of kids, like, if you want to play college football, you can. God's going to determine how many people are in the stands, right? They're going to determine it's out of your hands on whether you're going to have 50,000 people in the stands or 50, right? And so it's one of those things where if you want to play, there's a spot. And then the other thing I'm pushing nowadays, kids talk about wanting to have that college experience and all those kind of things. Like, if you want to play football and have the college experience, it may not be at the Division I level anymore, right? Where all your classes are online. You only hang out with people on your team and maybe other fall sport athletes or if you want the true college experience, it might be at a Division III school where you are in a class and it's you and one other football player and a soccer player and a volleyball player and a basketball player, and then a bunch of kids that are just there to school, and your roommate's not on the football team. Your roommate's an English literature major, and you're kind of bouncing some things off of them. It's a tough thing is trying to be honest with kids and connect with them. Like, hey, this coach from University of Oregon, I love you. They're not trying to talk to a 5'10", 175-pound linebacker. They're talking to the 6'3" receiver that led the state in touchdowns, right?
Mm-hmm.
It's one of those things where the 6'3" receiver that runs a 4.4. It's one of those things. Now there's going to be coaches that come for you. It's just not this coach, right? And so trying to be honest with kids and having those conversations and putting it out there, right? It's like, I love you and I want to help you get to a level that you want to be or play college football. Let's be honest with what level that is. So yeah. It's challenging for sure.
Yeah. Kind of want to back up a little bit. You talked about, giving gratitude to your teammates and what that does, not only for yourself, but, the teammate. Talked with Coach Steve Pine, and he gave you a shout out. He had the chance to coach, I think, the Les Schwab Bowl with you. And he mentioned he took something from you post practice. What do you guys do post practice?
Yeah. So we started this a couple of years ago in the spring. Is just to, again, I go back to that mindset that kids want to fit in and then they want to stand out in that group, right? And so we started doing this thing where the first day it's coaches highlight 2 kids, right? And we're going to highlight those 2 kids. And generally it's for work ethic, attitude, our core beliefs, right? It's not for making a great catch. It's not for making a great tackle or great read. It's for taking ownership of a teammate, power of the team, passion for growth, right? Those things. So we highlight it, and then that kid's going to highlight another kid, right? So they're going to call out somebody at practice that kid stands up to, hey, I want to shout out Keanu. He's coming. He's super prepared every day at practice. I love it. He's like in film. He knows exactly what's going on. He's never goofing off. I just really appreciate it because when I watch Keanu watch film, it makes me want to watch film better. Right? You know what I'm saying? We all clap. Now the next practice, Keanu, you gotta shout out somebody. Very rarely I'm like, I'll have to kind of connect with the kid and I go, hey, man, I don't know if you noticed Billy over there. He's working really, really hard, and he doesn't get a lot of reps and stuff. So do you see Billy working hard? And oh yeah, Billy works his tail off. I was like, all right. So sometimes I'll put that little bug in their ear, some kids and stuff, but it's a really fun way. And we did it at the Les Schwab Bowl. We said, hey, you can't shout out anybody from your own team. So it's like, you really do have to get to know your teammates, and we'll do stuff like, okay, this week it can't be somebody from your own position, or it can't be somebody from your grade. Right. So we got to bounce from senior to sophomore to junior to those kind of things. And it's just a way to have kids recognized for stuff that they bring to the table. Right. And so that's one of my core things. I want to make sure not everybody gets to score touchdowns. Not everybody gets to make tackles, but everybody gets to be valued in our program.
Yeah. No, I like that, Coach. How do you go about building trust and continuity among the team? Is there stuff that you guys do team building wise off the field?
We've done a bunch of different things. I think the biggest thing on trust is just communication and connecting with guys and trying to be proactive. As I say, I do a lot of those informal checks throughout the year and connecting with guys and seeing, like, again, now that I'm not running the day-to-day on the offense or the defense, I can really sit back and try to see, like, okay, what are some potential issues? What are some potential challenges that are coming up in the game? And we've got 3 running backs that are pretty good, but one is definitely kind of the guy, and we're playing a big team. It's like, instead of everybody getting, the reps or carries going like, 12, 10, 8, the reps carries went 20, 5, 3. Like, I better connect with those kids that got 5 carries and 3 carries. I better connect with them right away or ahead of time knowing what's going to happen. Right. And on Monday, like hey, and I'm just letting you, this is the game plan. This is how it's going. And so the communication, I think, is the biggest thing on trust. And we've done a bunch of different things, team building and players, talking to players and coaches and stuff, but our position coaches do an unbelievable job. I try to make sure that they're the head coach of their position. I meet with them on Sundays. I'm like, I need you guys to give me some feedback, right? What's something I need to be aware of? And I got a funny story for you. We got a senior kid. He's not showing up very much in the summer. Fall, he shows up. I didn't even think he was going to play, right? He shows up and he's late to practice. And I go, hey, what's going on, man? Or our linebacker coach asked him, he goes, what's going on? And the kid says, hey, he tells the coach, and all of a sudden our linebacker coach comes up and he goes, hey, man, he's got a kid. I don't know if you know this. He's got a kid. Kid's keeping him up all night and stuff. And I'm like, I had no idea. So then I see this kid 2 days later and I go, hey, Chris, let me know if you need any help, right? You're always welcome to bring your kid to practice. One of our coaches will take care, but we need you at practice, man. So listen, he goes, kid, what are you talking about? You told Coach Brian that you got a kid. He goes, I got a cat, coach.
I got a cat.
I got a kitten. I got a kid.
Funny.
Yeah. And so, but it just goes like our coaches, position coaches, right? You got a small group connecting with your kids and trying to figure out what's going on and not always jumping to conclusions, right? And assuming some things. So that's a big one with our kids.
Yeah. I know you're in the building and, speaking to a lot of coaches, that was another thing a coach said, like not a lot of coaches are in the building anymore. So I know there's a challenge there from a connectivity standpoint, from, I guess, a wellness check standpoint, but do you have any systems or a process if anyone's, not doing well mental health wise or academically, anything that you do that is unique to help them get back on track?
Yeah, I'm really fortunate, again, being in the building, and I'm not trying to not like teaching a class where I have every kid, right? And I'm at staff meetings and connecting with teachers and trying to build something. I don't know what it is specifically to do, but I try to connect with our staff to make sure, like, hey, if you got challenges with a kid or something's going, come and let me know sooner than later, right? And we'll try to help out. So I think our staff seeing that, when I say our staff, our teaching staff, seeing that we're invested in these kids more than just football players, but we actually do want them to be successful off the field and down the road. Get a lot of conversations with our students. So we get ahead of some things. We check grades. I would love to have a system that was a little bit better. You're kind of limited by the technology you have, right? So, a lot of times you're responsive and less proactive than you want to be. But, connect with kids. We do have a study hall here. I'm here all the time. You'll see my classroom board. I'll have math. I used to teach algebra and geometry and those kind of things. So I'm able to help some of our kids. Like, all right, this is one of my favorite questions. What's your toughest class right now? If they say math, I'm like, well, let's go. We're coming to the classroom. What are we doing right now? So doing some of those things, but try to just have these informal conversations where you try to get some information before you wait for them to come and tell you what's going on.
Yeah, no, it's good. You talking about math made me think of, Coach Adam Gunther at Wilsonville, because he's a math teacher.
Yeah.
And when I talked to him, one of the first things he was talking about, like, football, just kind of the parallel between football and math. Like you're problem solving, you're adding a variable to the equation. Okay, why didn't that desired outcome work? Okay, let's go back and let's replug and let's look at the problem. So I thought that was a really cool parallel that that he drew, but that just made me think of that.
Yeah, I haven't thought of that either.
Talk to me a little bit about, your captain process, how you go about, establishing a sense of shared leadership within the team.
I've done captains about every different way you can think of since I've been head coach. We've had applications. I had kids fill out an application thing because I heard from somebody like, hey, not everybody wants to be a captain, right? Even the rah-rah guys sometimes just want to be a rah-rah guy. They don't necessarily want to actually have some true responsibility other than just being themselves, right? So I've done applications. I've done coaches pick 2, players pick 2, and I've rotated every single week. The last 2 years, going back to, okay, we want kids to be leaders. And, that saying that good teams are coach-led and great teams are player-led. It's like, okay, well, if we want teams to be player-led, we got to teach them how to be leaders. And that's one, going back to your question about challenges, like that's one of the challenges is I don't know that kids are put in leadership skills, right? There's another Jonathan Haidt, the psychologist.
Good. What
You, all right,
book are
you
you
know what I'm talking
referencing? What book are you referencing?
about.
The Coddling of American Man?
Out in the American Mind, yeah, where he
Yeah.
talks about like kids just don't go out and play anymore. And that's when I remember growing up and like, yeah, we just go and play, pick up basketball. And there's a funny little, yeah, my wife's like, you would just go and play? You just go to the park and play basketball? I'm like, yeah. There are other kids that want to play too. And you figure it out. And you set these rules and stuff, and you just learn how to lead. Like I said, lead yourself, lead a group.
Yeah.
So going back, I was all right, we got to figure it out. So we voted for off-season captains the first Monday after we were eliminated. So we lose to Sherwood in the playoffs a couple years, 2 years ago. That Monday we come in, we vote for awards, and then we vote for off-season captains. And then those kids, they draft teams. So we had off-season teams, and they got points for everything. You go to winter workout, you get a point. If you're playing basketball and you go to the workout, you get double points. You get triple points if it's game day. Right? And you're not gonna max squat if you got a game today, right? But you being there is
Just showing up.
It's presence, right? Just showing that you're committed. We get grades for A's. We get negative points for you get a D or an F. That's a negative point. You get a teacher. I got to go talk to a teacher about your behavior in class, negative points, right? And then I would meet with those guys, right, once a month. And we sit there and just kind of, hey, what's going on? What do I need to be aware of? Hey, Drew, so-and-so is having, there's 3 different negatives on this thing. They got negative points for your team right now. They're coming to workouts, but then twice a week, I'm having this teacher say that they're causing problems in class and stuff. So I need you to talk to that kid, let them know that's not okay, right? And you have an opportunity like, here's how to handle that conversation, right? Let's be informative, let's be constructive, not combative, those kind of things. So we did that, and we kind of just, that group was established, and then I'll reevaluate in the summer. Are they doing what they need to do? Are they kind of still represent what we want to represent? And then we'll stick with them, or we'll make a change if we need to. And I did last year. I had to talk to one of our kids that was kind of that off-season captain. And I go, hey, look, man, they voted for you, and you're not necessarily doing what they voted for, right? They see you as this, and you're kind of acting over here right now. So let's try to get back to where that Pistos. Let's be who we say we are, right? That's what we've done the last couple of years, and I really like it. We stick with those 4. Meet with them in the season. I meet with them once a week to start. And then we just have that, again, not running the offense, not running the defense. I can just talk to Chaz, in the middle of practice when he's taking a rep off or something. Hey, what's going on with so-and-so? Can you help me with this? Right. And being able to have those informal conversations and building that trust along the way allows you to have some conversations that are sometimes, hey, this is a me you conversation. He's not getting the job done. I need you to connect with him, right?
Yeah.
And trusting that conversation is going to stay with you too.
Yeah. I love how you do the point system, by the way. I think it's something that's really easy, and sometimes it gets overlooked because, like, I think the best thing you can do is, like, if you want to be great at something, you got to figure out a way to measure it, and you got to figure out a way to quantitate it and put it in a visual representation so that players can look at it,
right,
and be like, okay, we're not matching that standard, or X group is doing better than we are, and then it almost kind of reinforces steps to get to where they need to get to. So I really like how you go about doing that.
It's got to mean something too, right? So, for us, we had a linebacker this year or this past season. He didn't miss a workout. I go, all right, coach, this kid he gets first shot, right? On spring ball, he's running with the ones at linebacker. And I'm not saying he's going to be a 1 in September or October, but he's earned the opportunity to get the first shot, right? And then the other one is jersey numbers. I mean, it's, you want number 1, and you've been to, let's look, you have negative 20 points for your team and you want to be number 1. All right. No, it's real simple. So it gives you some things where it's like, I'm not the bad guy, right? You saw the scoring system, and this is where you're at. So the kid that has 60 points is going to be number 1. You can be number, whatever, 44, 46.
We'll give you six. You get 67. You're
Yeah.
playing receiver. You get six. For whatever reason, San Diego State.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're still doing it, but when I was at Boise, I mean, they had receivers wearing in the 90s, and it was like one of their better dudes. It was their ex at the time. It was like I don't.
Skyview still doing it, but at the time, 42 and 46 were the two numbers. The dudes wore 42 and 46.
You said at Skyview. You said
At Skyview, yeah. And that was just one of the things. And it was Jim Gray was our offense coordinator at the time. He was like, "No, you're 46, you're 42." It was kind of a cool deal and stuff. So it was nice that it wasn't just always the single digit.
no doubt. What's the communication look like after a bad loss or a bad setback?
A bad loss is it's keeping the important thing, right? Did we lose because we didn't prepare? Did we lose because they're better than us, right? Did we lose because we lost our cool or whatever? We didn't follow who we said we were. So that's the tough thing. And also, at the end of the day, they're kids and they're going to forget about it a lot faster than we're going to forget about as adults, right? So it's like, all right, we can always come back and fix things on Monday. Let's breathe, acknowledge like, hey, we didn't have it today. Here's what had this happen. Let's make sure we're taking some time to evaluate really like where we're at individually, right? And let's also not let it beat us up, right? Because one I like to say is like after every game, you're going to say there's going to be 30 kids sitting here going, if I would have done this, we would have won. Well, it's like if all 30 of us have that one moment, then there's not one moment that lost the game, right? So let's evaluate it and let's really work on getting better. And let's also not internalize it and say, that's who I am, right? We lost the game, so I'm a loser. That's not the case, right? And so, yeah, that's the thing. Sometimes we had a game this year where we won. And we game 17-14, and it's like our kids are just down after the game. And I'm like, winning football games is hard, right? And, we played a team, they made the playoff. They're a really good football team, tough, physical, really well coached. I'm like, winning football games at the 6A level is hard to do, right? So, yeah, we weren't perfect, but let's enjoy this moment and let's make sure like all those things that we did leading up to this got us to the point where, yeah, maybe we didn't play our best and we were able to grind it out and win. And so it's some of those things again, we talk about not riding the highs too high, the lows too lows, and model for the kids. Like, let's not ride that emotional roller coaster here.
Yeah. You mentioned it earlier. You kind of, when you were time at LaSalle, I think it was your second year where you had a veteran coach, mentioned, maybe it's not this game. Anyways, season's done. Fast forward, I don't know, January time. What does the self-scout process look like? What does a timeline look like? Is it you taking a week off? Are you like detaching from the result and then coming back after Christmas break? What does that look like? How do you break down your season? You look at it from a philosophy structure standpoint first and then scheme. What's your process?
Well, all right. So one, I'm going to it's clockwork. About 3 days after the season, I'm going to get sick. And then I'm going to be out.
I'm the same way. Like it was bye week and end of season was when I really just.
I thought because we had about 2 weeks in a row where every one of our coaches just was down for the count for a couple of days.
It's those cortisol levels, man. Once they finally drop and your body takes a deep breath and then.
Exactly.
I don't know.
Yeah. So, when you're the head coach, you got to worry about, right, we got to get this banquet schedule. We got to get the letters done. We got to make sure we do all these things. Equipment turn in is the worst. I mean, I'm still waiting on a jersey from a senior. I'm like, no, you don't.
It's not coming back.
We're in Bilia here. Those things are not cheap,
Yeah.
But I really do try to take about a month. I try to get to like Christmas break where I'm going to step back and I'm going to enjoy. I'm going to watch some college football, and it's hard. Can't just watch a game and to watch a game. Like I'm watching and looking at what they're doing. I'm like, that's pretty cool. We're texting back and forth, but I'm really going to kind of step away from our stuff for a little bit of time and just try to get a bunch of information so then I can kind of hit it back in January and get fresh on what's going on. Offensively, we break everything down. Here's our zone run game. Here's our gap scheme run game, drop back pass, screen game, play action. And then I'll kind of pick one of those that, all right, this week I'm going to kind of look at this stuff and really go through. Defensively, they're kind of doing the same thing, looking at personnel, what went well, what didn't go well, and then why. We talked about that. Like, is it The same thing on the negative play. Was it scheme? Was it personnel? Were we just outmatched in some areas and those kind of things? And then again, I'm constantly looking at what can I add to the culture? As I love your podcast. I'm listening to Coach Matheson and Coach Eagle and Coach Pine, and like, okay, what can I take from this, and how can we add this into our thing? And can we add? Does it align with us, right? And that's something I heard from a coach a long time ago talk about. There's so many good things you can do. There's every offense works, every defense works, right? Is it fit you guys? And then all these different leadership culture things. Do you have the capacity to do it, right? And we talk about the points thing. Like it's easy, but it's a lot of work, right? And I have the capacity to do it right now. There's some other things like, yeah, that'd be great, but am I going to get 100% buy-in, right? Or is it going to conflict with some things that we already find important? And I think I heard John Eagle say this on your thing. Like, is it better than what we already do? Like, let's really look at it and evaluate it. And before we give it to our kids, is it better than something we already do? And is it going to bring value to our program? So that's what I'm kind of constantly, I'm glad Coach kind of put it into words, but just constantly in my head thinking, all right, can we do it better this way?
Yeah. No, that's good. Any other acronyms, quotes, values that you want to share that's kind of pertinent? I went and did a little scouting on top of your Twitter. You got a little hashtag DMGB.
Yeah.
What is that?
Doesn't matter, get better, right? That's again, it's a Brian Kite thing. And we use that for like, every play is important, right? The next most important play. And Nick Saban used to say that, right? What's the most important play of the game? The next one, right? So let's get ourselves prepared. So we use DMGB like, okay, you drop a ball. Let's move on, right? Yeah, we dropped it. Okay. It was quick assessment. Did I make the U? Did my eyes snap around, right? Why did I drop it? Did I run before I caught the ball? Whatever it was. I missed a tackle. It happens. Let's evaluate and let's move on, right? Now, I process. All right, doesn't matter. I need to get better and focus on this thing, right? And the same thing is like, I make a great play. I was just at the basketball game last night and I said to our coach, I just don't know why we have to do a dance, do something every time we make a shot, right? Like if there's big moments, yeah, we're going to celebrate. Like, let's move on. We got to go play defense right now. So made a shot. Let's transition back. And so we use that DMGB of like, yeah, we're going to enjoy. So we score a touchdown. Like that's hard to do. Let's celebrate as a team. And then let's go kick an extra point or go for 2 or whatever it is. We make a big hit. Those are fun. Those are rare. Let's celebrate that for a second. And then let's move on, right? Doesn't matter. Get better we're on to the next thing. So that the E+R equals O, like if you don't believe in that, you are not going to like this program. Cause I say it about 100 times a day, Yeah. Hey, shoot, my guy. He's like, if I had a tattoo, I don't have any tattoos. If I did, that would be it. Right.
Yeah.
My wife hates it because I'm like, all right, what's the event that you're facing right now? It's just, I'm not one of your football players.
That's funny. I was trying that. I just finished reading Twin Thieves this other day, and that was in the book. And I was like, I'm going to come up with a different acronym that's the same exact thing, but it's just a different. It's just a different. It's just everyone's E+R equals O. Mine is going to be S+A equals R.
Right.
R. Situation plus action equals result, baby.
That's good. Yeah.
We're going to make a book about it.
Stoicism and stuff. That's a big thing I've been kind of looking at. I got the little book around here somewhere, but I remember I was telling it at a teacher staff meeting, like talking about E+R equals O. And they were like, oh, I read something about this that like, Socrates said or something. And I was like, yeah, it's the same. It's been around for a while. I'm not reinventing anything. It's taken.
What was the book that you're reading? I try to read.
That was Meditations, man. Somebody
Marcus Aurelius special there.
That's it. It's a tough read. I mean, it's a couple pages when I sit back and process some stuff, but it's good. It's good. I tell you, the one reading right now is 1929.
Does that sound familiar?
So 1929 is the stock market crash.
Okay.
It's I got through the first part, which is just a recounting of like what led up to the stock market crash, and then the second half, which I'm just starting now, is kind of like, okay, the parallels of what's going on now and there. But I really think it's like, okay, what made this thing that everybody thought was going this way all of a sudden crash? I mean, going back to what we said, I think I'm hoping I can get something that's going to help our team to make sure that we're doing this and we're not going to do this. We're going to keep here and play and kind of do that thing, but not have that big crash. So I don't know.
Yeah. No, I like that. Who I might have to read that one. I might have to read that
It's
one.
Aaron Ross Sorkin. It's the same last name, like the big movie producer, movie director, but it's not. It's not.
Okay.
So yeah.
Okay. I'll look into that one because I try to act like I got a lot more time now in my hands, so I try to act like I know what I'm doing, and I try to be somewhat in touch. So I started reading a guy named Ray Dalio. He kind of
Yeah.
talks about principles, and then he has
Yeah.
How Countries Become Broke. So I'm slowly going through that one on top of my Kindle right now.
Right.
But yeah, any final advice on coaching, teaching, leadership for the good of the community?
Yeah, man, it's no, I appreciate what you do so much. One of the things I love about coaching is like we all help each other, right? I mean, I was kind of thinking in my head, like, all right, who influences and stuff, and like all these coaches that I worked with, Steve Kaiser and Jim Gray and Bob Benson. I mentioned Julian Williams and Matt Hamlin and all these guys that I've worked with, and then Steve Corey and Ken Potter have been doing this way longer than I have, and their willingness to pick up the phone. I call and I'm like, hey, I'm having trouble with this. And like, you're going to compete with these guys, and they're super willing to help you and listen to what is and kind of run you through stuff. It's just such a great community of professionals that are here to serve kids. Yeah. Friday night, we're going to play and we want to beat each other. We want to have more points than the other team at the end of the night.
Yeah.
Same time, I think the coaches, the majority of coaches, especially in football, are really out there to serve kids and
Oh,
help.
that's good.
I
I appreciate you sharing that. And then honestly, like that's honest, what you're talking about right now has been really refreshing for me because I think you're within the college game, and I don't think it's college to high school dynamic, but college, in between college dynamic. I think coaches are a lot more reserved about, what's going on with underneath, their facilities from a schematic standpoint, from a philosophy standpoint, from a culture standpoint. So when I started this, I was under the impression that, okay, coaches don't want to share information. And it was more so within the college realm, but exactly what you're saying. It's cool to hear that other coaches, especially who are successful and the guys that you've been competing with, are so willing to share information to, help bring up other coaches. So that's really cool. But I'm gonna turn this thing around. I'll get it released by tomorrow. I try to do at least one a week. I was a little inconsistent last year, just starting out. But that's kind of my 2026 goal. I got to bang out, one a week. So I'll turn this out around tomorrow. I'll edit it, send it out probably around close to noonish, depending on, my wife got to work tonight. So depending on what my kids end up doing as far as bothering me in the afternoon.
Yeah.
But I appreciate your time, Coach. And, I'm glad this show or the podcast has added value for you. And it's affirming for me because, it's like you do X amount of episodes and, it's one of those things, hey, don't compare. And you tell your kids, don't compare. But at some point you want to make sure, your fruits of your labor are paying off in some sort of regard. I'm happy that it's providing value to you and, some other coaches. So that means a lot.
You're doing a great job, man. It's